Hi, welcome back to another episode of College Stream Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser. In this week's video, we still have four projects in the shop. We have Ellie's 5-window coupe, the 33 Ford 5-window coupe chassis. We have Brenda's Roadster, and we also have the Camera Lady's Roadster chassis we're working on. In most cases, we're waiting for some parts to arrive. They should be arriving today, tomorrow. There's a few things we have to do for the Roadster. There's some insulation on the floor. There's a plug we're waiting for the engine so we can get some, there's a little bit of an air leak there. We're going to take care of that. Take it for a few more shakedown runs. Hopefully we'll take the camera. We'll take you along on one of those drives. Hopefully I'll convince the camera lady to ride shotgun with me. The spring should be coming in for the 33 chassis, so hopefully we'll get the front end put on that. And then we'll start hopefully doing, or maybe doing, some more sheet metal work on Ellie's coupe. So follow along while we work on the 32 and 33 Fords. So today I'm going to start working on the 33 chassis again. Last time the issue we had, we kind of dummied in the front axle and the wishbones, and we didn't know it, but our front spring was too wide. So the owner actually found another main leaf that was the right length, but we didn't have the leaves. Then we were going to cut the leaves off the wider one to make them fit this. But then over the weekend, he went to Pine Tree Jamboree in Maine, and he picked up this other leaf spring for, I think, less than what's marked on there. So what the plan is right now, conceivably what I could do is take this main leaf here and reverse the eyes, but I already have one. So what we'll do is we'll take the leaves off of this, put it on this one, and I think I'm going to have to trim just a little bit off the ends of these because I don't want them touching the eyes there. So I'll take 1/4 of an inch or something like that off and fit them on this other main leaf. And then we'll save this other main leaf for another project. So once I get that done, I'm going to take the main leaf, and then we will start dumbing it in the front end here. What I'll do is I'll use the main leaf. I'm going to compress the axle so that it'll imitate the ride height of the chassis. And then what we're going to do is then position the rod ends on the frame so that we've got the 5 to 7 degrees of caster, I believe it is, which is the angle that the axle is laid back, and then we'll know exactly where to weld those brackets on. Now what he wanted to do was use these traditional style mounts that a lot of guys would use in the early days, or this style, to bolt it on the frame. I won't be bolting it on the frame. Once I get it in the right position, I'll actually weld in here, and I'll weld these to the frame. So I'll show you in a couple seconds where we are with that, and then hopefully we'll get this moving finally. So I think I've got the front end sorted out now as far as alignment goes. A couple of things to point out. One thing you have to make sure of is that the front axle is square with the frame. So what I did, and as I did in other situations when I'm setting this up, we don't have a great big frame jig or anything, but essentially we find the center of the rear cross member. This looked like an off center, but the brackets, the bolts here are, or not the bolts, but the reinforcing things are welded off. But that is the center of the rear cross member right there. So from the corner of that axle to here, and that corner to here is exactly the same thing. I think it's 120 3/16 of an inch or something like that each way. So we're good as far as squareness goes. Then the other thing I needed to do was get the rear of the frame at approximately the ride height of what it would be. I have to simulate it after everything is onto it. Now, how I did that, I went off some of the other cars I've built and basically got a rough measurement of where the back of that is going to sit. And then I did the same thing with the front. I went off of the 32s I have and basically off the weights fully loaded, and then I got a measurement from there off the floor is 10, in my case 10 inches off each side. Then I made sure that the axle was compressed relative to the frame with the same amount of clearance here as what it would be when it was under full load. So with all that said, and going back and forth, we're now sitting, I think, at a caster angle of, depending on how I put it, right around 6.5 degrees. So I want between 5 and 7. We need to get it as close as we can because we're not going to have adjustments. So I'm going to go with 6.5, and then we're going to tack. I'm going to tack those brackets in place. Now, with these brackets, I was going back and forth of how to weld them in place because we wanted to leave them showing. I started by putting the brackets basically perpendicular to the floor like that. Didn't look right. So I basically went and have the brackets now perpendicular to the top of the frame. Anyways, it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I think that's what we're going to make it look like because we want to show the brackets. So like I said, I'm going to weld that in place. And then the next step would be to start putting the rest of the spring onto it, and then starting putting the spindles on it and everything else and getting the front end assembled here. What did I say? Oh, okay. So we got the Brenda's hot rod, Brenda's Highboy 32 Highboy going. I've done about 100 miles so far onto it, kind of breaking it in. Really nothing serious or nothing minor really wrong with it. So it's pretty much ready to go back to Brenda, her husband, and we did a few things on the inside, like we put some more insulation on the floor and stuff to help with heat and sound and whatnot, but it doesn't have carpet or upholstery into it right now. It may come back here next year sometime for us to do the upholstery and the carpet into it. I'm not sure yet, but right now their focus is they just want it back after a few adjustments and just be able to drive it for the rest of September and hopefully early part of October. So anyways, we're going to jump into it. We're going to take it for a quick drive and we'll show you what it's like. I guess we're ready to go. Hopefully I'm not going to mess up the clutch here because I don't drive a standard all that often. Used to drive a standard all the time, but got spoiled driving automatics and all my other cars. And there we go, coast is clear. Nice September evening here in Nova Scotia, so a little bit cool for driving, probably 17 or 16 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure what that is, but I think it's low 60s or high 50s in the old system. Some of the trees are just starting to turn here. It's been exceptionally dry this year, so some of the trees turn prematurely, some of them just turn brown. But hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll be able to show you some really, really nice fall colors. Probably not driving Brenda's Roadster, but more than likely driving some of our own. So we're going to do a little bit of a loop here. We're going to go down, going to go to the right, flip around. We can do about, I guess, a 10-mile loop, and then we can actually do a 20-mile loop. So just go for a drive here. Anyways, enjoy the sights here as we drive up and down Coldstream Road. we go. We did, I guess, 12 miles. And we're gonna park it now, and we got a total of 140 miles on it so far, which is a little more than what I said I needed to do, but I guess we just had more fun driving it. So that's it. More than likely, it's gonna get picked up tomorrow night or the following night. I'm gonna go home, and hopefully Brenda and her husband are gonna drive it and have a whole lot of fun. First step in preparing the spindles for the 33, much like I've done in the other episodes, and any of you guys have bought the different front end kits from Speedway, Pete and Jake's, whatever, you put it together yourself, you have to install this insert, the spacer on the spindles in order to run the Dodge Volare style rotors or GM style rotors and the geometric disc brakes. What it allows you to do is then use the, well, in the box there somewheres, is the roller bearings that will just slide on here. Don't know if I can do this one-handed or not, but I'm going to try. I've got the press set up over here right now. It is relatively straightforward. Might be able to do it one-handed. Set that in there. Again. Line her up just a little. Oh, there we go. I'm gonna line her up a little bit. I put this this piece of metal here, like that. Oh, sorry, trying to keep it all centered here so I can show you. I just did one of these, just as easy as anything. You can heat the bushings up and whack them on that way. I've done it that way, but this is pretty much the easiest way to do it right here. Run the hydraulic press, push it in until it comes up tight. And if I had two hands here, this probably wouldn't wobble as much as it did, but I think you got the gist of it. And there it is, it's pressed in place. Take that out. And there it is. So what I'm going to do now, I am going to clean these spindles up, take a little bit of the burrs off of them, and I'm going to I'll tape them off and put a coat of paint on them. Because kind of what we're doing here with the 33 chassis, a little different than the other ones, is we're going to paint everything, put it together. I'm going to, once everything is all together and set up, I'm going to drop the front end off, drop the rear end off of it, pull the frame aside, then we're going to do a touch-up paint on the cross member and all the pieces we welded. The owner wants to try and do this just basic, as budget as what you can, being that it's a 33 5-window coupe. I mean, doesn't want to cut any corners as far as, you know, construction goes or anything like that, but we're just going to do the absolute basics on this, make it look like an old school hot rod, and hopefully get it on the road probably early spring. So anyways, I'm going to paint those up. We're going to clean the spindle bosses. I've got to sand the paint off the top of those, make sure that the king fins slide in real easy and stuff. And we're going to carry on with the assembly of the front end here. So last night before I went in, I taped up the spindles, like I said, and put a couple coats of trim-clad black paint onto it. That's all we've been using. Put 2 coats, let it dry overnight for 24 hours. And then what I did is then started to fit them on this particular axle. Now, one thing I found with this axle, I don't know who made it. Might have been Speedway, Magnum. I don't think that it's Super Bell, but it'd been sitting around for a while. It was sandblasted, and ultimately had to file the tops of these to clean stuff up, and then even go so far as to take a 9/16 drill and then drill out the pinholes, those bosses there, in order for it to fit. Anyways, it's just what happens. Sometimes you're going to buy a used axle at a swap meet or an old original one. Got to check them out first. Try putting the pieces into it. Shock mount should be like that. We'll tighten that bolt up later. I know it's loose. So this is the same as what we did on our Camera Ladies Roadster. Fitted in place. The thrust bearing goes on the bottom. Put the kingpin in, and then basically shim up the top here. Put as many shims in as you can. You ultimately, I think, want 5 to 15 thou clearance there. You don't want it too tight, because ultimately when you put the locking pin in place on the kingpin, it's going to tighten stuff up. So it's more than possible that you get a really good fit. Put the locking pin in place, and then the kingpin, when everything tightens up, it's still too tight. So you want it snug. You want, I try to aim for about a 5 thou gap. I've kept all of my extra shims over the years, because lately I find when you buy the Speedway spindles, they only send you 4 of these 5 thou shims, and that isn't always enough. So don't be surprised. You either have to go cut some shims or whatever. But like I said, fortunately over the years I've saved them up. I'm going to do the same thing over on this side, and then we'll trial fit the spindle arms to see if they're going to clear the wishbones. Fingers crossed we got the right ones, but we're going to know in a couple minutes. So one other thing I forgot to mention, since we're kind of doing like a final assembly for the front end, like normally when we do a chassis like this, we're going to build it all, put it together, weld everything in place, take everything apart and repaint it. In this case, what's going to go on, we're going to final assemble the front end, undo the wishbones and the front spring, slide the front end, the rear end out, and then we'll probably paint part of the frame, do the paint touch up onto it in this particular case. Like again, we're doing the final assembly on this, so I'm actually greasing everything up as I go. So on the inside of the bushings there, make sure you get some grease in there. These nipples, I'm going to replace them with an angled nipple, because I can never get the grease fitting on them. I've got some over in the bench. Grease up the kingpin. Make sure you get the thrust bearing full of grease. Pack it really good. Ultimately, when you grease those grease fittings, there's going to be grease go into it, but just do it anyways for your final assembly. And then I'm just going to pre-lube that hole just so that it fits. I'll trial fit the kingpin, because we had to clean those holes out like we did the other side. So anyways, just when you're doing that, when you intend to do the final assembly, make sure you grease everything up real good. So managed to get a couple more parts on the front end of the 33 Ford before we run out of time here. Got the brake brackets on, got the spindle arms on, and basically concluded that we've got the right drop on the spindle arms. I think I said that previously, but I was kind of concerned with the spindle drop versus the split wishbones, as whether or not it's going to clear the split wishbones, and right now I'm certain that it will. So what we're going to do is, now I've got to get a piece of DOM tubing in order to make the tie rod. We've got the tie rod ends, so that's up next. Then also start putting the brakes and stuff onto it. But like I said, unfortunately ran out of time. Camera Lady's got to put a video together for you folks to show you what we did. But that's it for this week. Spent a lot of time and a lot of fun time driving Brenda's Roadster and stuff, just breaking it in. I think so far we've got 140 or 145 miles onto it. No issues, brakes good, handles good, shifts good. It's time for them to go have fun with it. Anyways, that's it for this week of Coldstream Rod Shop. Please like, share, tag, and subscribe. Send your comments, and come on back next week and see what we're up to. Everybody take care. Have a great week.